that it would be just as correct to use one or the other. The difference is very, very subtle. Do you know what subtle means? Yes. Subtle is not very much at all. When, we use when, we use when with the present tense to talk about habits. When I'm sleepy, I go to bed. You know, happens every time. When I go, now we can also use when, and this is where we make the distinction between while. We use when with the past tense to talk about something that's already happened. They were sleeping when the fireworks started. What this means is that they were sleeping. The fireworks started. So now it suggests that when the fireworks started, they woke up. They're no longer sleeping. Okay? Now, when we use while, again, it's only a subtle difference. When we use while, what we're suggesting is that while they were sleeping, the fireworks started. They were sleeping, the fireworks started, and they're still sleeping.
They're still sleeping.
Yeah. You see, the difference is here, in this example, they're sleeping. The fireworks started, and they wake up. The noise wakes them up. Okay? They were sleeping when the fireworks started. Now, if we use while, what we're saying is they were sleeping, the fireworks started, but they slept through it. They're still sleeping. That's the difference.
They didn't wake up.
I'm sorry?
They didn't wake up.
No, they didn't wake up. They're still sleeping. That's why we call it past continuous. This happened in the past. This also happened in the past, but it's also still happening. Okay? So they were sleeping means, while they were sleeping means they went to sleep and they're still sleeping. The fireworks didn't wake them up. It's a very slight difference. Very slight difference. Does that clear it up? Okay? Now, I want you to think hard, okay? I want you to think hard. Can you write a sentence, a complete sentence, using a dependent clause that starts with if? And if you would like, you can use the example in the notes to maybe as a model, you know, to kind of give you an idea of what to use. But write a complete sentence with a dependent clause, excuse me, that starts with if. Everybody have a chance? Two? Chop, do you have one? Let's hear your example. A dependent clause that starts with if. Does anybody have one they want to share yet? No? Want me to give you one I thought of? if I don't get lost, I will visit the floating market. You see, I will visit the floating market is the main part of the sentence. But the dependent clause, if I don't get lost, means there is the future possibility that I might get lost. So the dependent clause says, I will visit the floating market only if I don't get lost. So if I don't get lost, I will visit the floating market. That would be an example. Now, you come up with your own example. Yeah. Did you come up with one, Tassa? Okay, let's hear Tassa's example.
Because หมายถึงว่าทั้งหมดอะไรก็ได้เพราะ I learn English language because I like it. I learn English language because of interesting.
You learn English because?
Because I like it.
Okay, you learn English because you like it. Okay, because I like it.
Because of interesting.
Because of?
Interesting.
It's interesting? Okay.
น่าสนใจ
Yeah, all right. Yeah, because it is interesting is the dependent clause. Okay, I like to learn English because it is interesting. Okay, that's a good example. Did anyone use an example that starts with if? Nam, go ahead. Can you give us your example?
If I win the lottery, I will travel around the world.
Repeat it again for me, please.
If I win the lottery, I will travel around the world.
Okay. If I win the lottery, I will travel around the world. That's good. Because the only way she can afford to travel around the world is if she has lots of money. So we're talking about a future possibility, winning the lottery. It's not a very good possibility, so but that's a good example of how the dependent clause, starting with if, gives us additional meaning to the rest of that sentence. Good example. Let's try one more example and then we'll take a break, okay? Let's come up with an example.
I had breakfast before I come to school. I had breakfast before I come to school.
Okay, using before. Yeah. Before is the dependent clause. Okay, you're catching on. Well, we're going to take a break and then we'll come back. We're going to practice some more. And then we're going to use our workbooks and do a practice reading exercise from there. Again, wanting to know when to use before, when to use after, when to use when to use while, when to use because, when to use because of, when to use if. All are words that introduce dependent clauses. And remember, a clause is a group of words within a sentence that has a subject and has a verb. And we call it a dependent clause because the meaning of the sentence depends upon that clause. Okay? That's why we call it a dependent clause. Later on, we're going to take up another type of clauses, but I don't want to confuse you right now. I just want to make sure we've got dependent clauses down. Yes?
I will live in England if my English will.
If you will.
I will live in England if my English will.
I will visit England if my English
Will.
is, if my English, you would say improves. Improves, gets better. Yeah. Good example. All right, well, let's take a break, and then we'll come back in a few minutes, and we'll continue with some more practice. When?
When why when I have to travel, I make a list.
Okay.
Why I have sleeping, dreaming started.
Very good. Very good.
I number 75. Number 75 to Dao Phanong about 15 minutes. Okay. To Dao Phanong to Papadang. Papadang in Thai. Papadang about 15 minutes. And to Papadang and Papadang. อันนี้ Papadang end the end สุดท้ายป้ายสุดท้ายนี่ end of end the end of stop end stop. to 2 แถวอยู่แบบ pick up ใช่ไหม pick up 2 แถว
So from
จากพระประแดง
Papadang,
to บาง
Bang
บางน้ำผึ้ง floating market
and you do that by Songkao?
2 แถว 10 บาท
yeah.
10 บาท 10 บาท
10 baht.
about 50 minutes
Sure.
ถูกโอเค
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
She is go to with to ไม่ต้องการไง
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That was a good exercise.
Please keep an eye on my back.
ใครเอามือถือจะไปวะฉันถือ
Sonia, do I have your email? I can send you those. Do I have your email?
Yes.
Okay.
บางน้ำผึ้ง thisตลาดน้ำบางน้ำผึ้ง this and อันนี้แมปอันนี้ภาพอย่างเดียวเลยค่ะ this